Have you ever wanted a podcast that did it all? Sports, politics, world events. Well, you have come to the right place, because you are listening to C&C Talks.
Hello, I'm Colin,
And I'm Charlie.
and welcome to the season premiere of the C&C Talks podcast. Welcome to season 2.
Yep, and just a reminder, going into this new year, we still release every Tuesday, except for this week, due to the fact that there was a holiday on Monday. It is currently Tuesday, January 3rd, at about 4:30 Pacific time.
And coming up on this episode, we'll talk about what's new in season 2. We'll discuss the U.S. House Speaker election, the NFL, college football. We'll make some predictions for 2023 and much more. And let's start, Charlie, with what's coming up this year on the pod.
Yes. So we will have approximately 40 episodes this year that will change based off when we learn more about the days that we won't be available, things such as that. January 4th through December 19th will be our first and our last episode. Analysis of the previous week's news and sports, same as last year. Episodes will come out every Tuesday, Wednesday, if that Monday is a holiday or something else has happened. They will be released at 8 a.m. Pacific time, and will be shown as premieres on YouTube, and they'll be available on any platform that you get your podcasts, including YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and much more, and also available on our website at cctalks.net. We'll have new music and graphics as well as several bonus episodes throughout the season.
Yep, and also to start out the season, our plan, and things could change, but our plan is to do 7 straight weeks of episodes to kick off this year's season. C&C 5 episodes, also some bonus content, 5-minute recap of the previous day, exclusively on YouTube, 3 to 7 times a week. After hours episodes provide deep dives or background information on things that we discuss during the show. They're generally about 1 minute whenever warranted and exclusively on YouTube.
And now bloopers, which we used to release every month, will now be released once every 3 months on March 30th, June 30th, September 30th, and December 30th, exclusively on YouTube. And clips of every episode on YouTube will be released as well, the top moments posted on YouTube throughout the week after the episode is posted. We will also have sneak peeks the night before the episode's premiere, and a special surprise on the YouTube version of this episode as well. So watch that episode to find out.
Yep, now let's get into regularly scheduled programming on this podcast, I guess you could call it. Start with what's going on in the House of Representatives, and again, it's really important to say we are taping this for as I'm speaking right now. It is 4:38 p.m. Pacific time, and things are very, very fluid right now in the House of Representatives, where they failed to elect a speaker for the first 3 ballots today. Today, as we're taping this, the House will reconvene at 12 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. The House, they cannot swear in new members of Congress without a speaker chosen, so the House is currently not a functioning body. Now, Kevin McCarthy, of course, the expected person for the Republicans, he's been unable to get the 218 votes that's needed for election. In fact, he's been unable to get more than 203. There's currently 222 Republicans in the Congress, so 19 Republicans, and on the latest ballot, 20 Republicans have defected from McCarthy, so it seems really unlikely that he could get there. Jim Jordan has been getting votes from far-right members, but it's difficult to see how he could be elected, given that you also need votes from more moderate Republicans. Steve Scalise is another name that's popped up, but McCarthy really wants to be Speaker. It's unclear if he's going to go along with anything. And I mean, he has a vote, so ultimately just really unclear how this all proceeds. What are your thoughts, Charlie?
Yeah, I think clearly this needs to be complete. This can't be completed until there's a consensus, but also this needs to be completed quickly because the House is currently, as you said, not a functioning body of government, which of course it's needed to be. So I think eventually McCarthy will end up winning this, but I think it is a lot closer than expected, and it shows that there might be a little small split forming in the Republican Party.
Yeah, so you mentioned that, like, how do you think it reflects on the party to the voters, though? What would you say?
I would say we saw clearly during the midterm elections that there was a split between the more moderate Republicans and the more further right candidates, and I think that's being shown here with Jordan getting votes from the far right.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I feel like, how can the Republican Party be trusted to govern the American people if they literally are in such disarray that they can't elect a speaker? The last time that the speaker's election went to a second ballot, 1923. It's been 100 years. And McCarthy now unable to get his caucus. This is a group of people who have no clue what they're doing. Why should we trust them to be capable of passing any sort of legislation right now? So I think it reflects really badly on them as a party. I think that the Democrats really enjoyed the proceedings, unusual for a minority party to enjoy them that much, but there it is. They just get to sit back and watch the Republican Party collapse in on itself, basically.
Yeah. In less politics news, but I guess it could be in a way considered politics, but also really more cultural.
Funny news.
Well, funny for some people. I would
Most
say
people.
some justice certainly. Andrew Tate has been arrested. He tried going after Greta Thunberg on Twitter, talking about how many cars he had and the emissions of said cars. And so he asks for her email so he can share the emissions of those cars. So can we get a little bit more on how that ended up going?
Not well. Because Greta Thunberg, as it turns out, is much smarter than Andrew Tate. Not all that surprising. She responds with this clapback on Twitter. She said, "Yes, please do enlighten me. Email me at smalldickenergy@getalife.com." That tweet, by the way, Charlie, now the 4th most liked tweet in Twitter history.
Wow, that is impressive.
Yeah.
So what was Tate's response then?
Not great. Tate responded with his own. He responded with a 2-minute clapback video that was a bunch of nonsense. I'm pretty sure that a 3rd grader could have come up with a better response. And he only posted it 10 hours later after presumably he was done crying over the incident. In the response, though, he included a pizza box that he promised not to recycle. And Charlie, that didn't work out too well for him.
No, considering the fact that Romanian authorities then used the pizza store on the box to figure out his location, and he was arrested thereafter for human trafficking.
Not a great New Year's celebration for Andrew Tate.
No, definitely not.
Let's also talk about back to Congress news. In some news that's in some ways less funny and in some ways also completely hilarious. There's George Santos.
Yeah, what a mess of a candidate. Colin, can we get some more about his dealings, shall we say?
Yeah, so he's basically a serial liar. He basically created an entire biography for himself that he just did not have. Right?
In what way?
He claimed he was Jewish, gay. It seems that both of those claims are false. In fact, he's since clarified his Jewish claim to say that he wasn't saying he was Jewish, but instead that he just had a little bit of Jewish blood, so he was Jew-ish. That's not quite how it works.
But okay.
George Santos putting the ish in Jewish. That should be his new motto.
It should be.
But yeah, not a great look for Santos on anything. He's also Brazil has reopened an investigation of fraud into him, so he's now under investigation in Brazil, also under investigation in the United States.
So let's move to sports now. Week 17 of the NFL, we had a very scary injury to Bills safety Damar Hamlin. He completed an open field tackle on Bengals receiver T. Higgins before getting up for a few seconds before again then collapsing, which what we now know is cardiac arrest, and he is currently in the hospital in critical condition.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, our thoughts go out to Hamlin, just a completely scary injury, which caused the postponement of that Bills-Bengals game. And I mean, Charlie, I think it's completely the right decision. Like, how are you supposed to play when your teammate's literally going through a life or death incident?
Yeah, but I also wanted to talk to you about the fact that this could keep happening. Of course, we've had the all the concussions that have happened this year, especially with quarterback Tua Tagovailoa from the Dolphins. But so is this bringing up a greater issue that the NFL has?
I mean, I think that that's exactly it. I mean, this particular type of injury, it's not something I've ever seen in football before. It's something that, I mean, we've seen players in other sports have cardiac arrest incidents. It seems like just because it happened to one player doesn't necessarily make sport way more dangerous. But the fact that given just how many injuries in general there are to football players, it seems like something that should really be brought up. And frankly, it's kind of disgusting that this is the sport that America is addicted to, one where basically people are putting all of their safety on the line, right? Not a game goes by without a gazillion different injuries. And frankly, the NFL has shown that they don't really care.
Yeah, especially with that disaster involving Tua Tagovailoa's first concussion, where they sent him back out again.
Yeah, so it's definitely important. Let's talk about what did happen in the NFL in Week 17, and we'll start that Thursday night football game between the Cowboys and the Titans. How are you kind of feeling on both of these teams? Because the Titans, despite their complete collapse, and part of that can be attributed to injury, I think they still have a shot at winning that division. But the Cowboys also looking like a very strong team at the moment, one that you definitely do not want to face in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I do think Washington could pose a little bit of a threat to them. I think they will win that game. And I think if the Eagles manage to win their game against the Giants, will be good there. But I do think the Eagles are not playing very well recently. I know that Jalen Hurts is injured, but they still should be playing better than they have, especially on defense. So I think that will be interesting to see. We'll see if the Eagles can hang on going into the last week of the season. And as for the Titans, I don't trust them at all. I think they will lose to Jacksonville, and I think Jacksonville will sneak into the playoffs.
All right. The Falcons beat the Cardinals in what is a completely irrelevant game, but I think bigger picture, what's the future of the Arizona Cardinals? Because I mean, the couple seasons before this season, they at least started out fairly strong and just did not look good at the end of the season. But this season was just complete disaster for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yes, it really was. They, of course, with Kyler Murray getting injured, that really didn't help them very much either. I do think they really need to start rebuilding and rebuild their team, especially since they have a couple of key players retiring this year.
Yeah. The Lions beat the Bears. The Bears, despite having a very promising quarterback, are 3-13. What should they do? As their season obviously just about over, and not a whole lot of promise outside of quarterback.
As they did trade away quite a bit though, so they do have some draft picks I think that they could use that will really help them out. But I do think the future looks promising for them, especially considering how good Fields has been playing recently.
That is true. And what about the Lions? Because they're a team that kind of came out of nowhere this season and now has a real shot at a playoff berth.
Yeah, I trust the Lions. I think they're a better team than a lot of people thought they were at the beginning of the year. I think they're finally playing up to their potential. I think Jared Goff has been playing well. Their defense has really figured out their problems that they had earlier in the season, as has Seattle. I think it's going to be a great final week of the season for that last NFC wildcard spot.
Yeah, and we'll talk about scenarios in a minute. Chiefs with a win over the Broncos. I think proving, Charlie, that the AFC very much still does run through Kansas City. I mean, they're there.
Yes.
They're going to be there for a while, and they've been there for a while already.
They have, especially. Admittedly, though, you have to say they had 4 very easy games facing the Raiders and Broncos.
Yes, admittedly so. Patriots beat the Dolphins. This is something, Charlie, that I feel like we've seen a lot from the Dolphins in recent years. I mean, they come up just short of the playoffs. And so what's
Very
their
consistently.
future? I mean, they still have a chance this week in week 18. We'll get into scenarios in a minute, but every season they seem to just be like kind of mid, and they don't seem to have a clear path forward, because even given all of the pieces that they have, they can't make the jump to great, but they also can't make the jump to terrible and get a bunch of draft picks.
Yeah, they're really stuck in a middle area, and I think it's going to take them a very long time to either decline to the point where they can begin to rebuild, or finally break through and make it to the playoffs and go for the Super Bowl. I don't really see them doing anything for the foreseeable future, though.
Yeah. Also with the Patriots, I feel like Bill Belichick has done a pretty good job. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. Obviously, Hall of Fame coach, but he doesn't have a lot there. Patriots now in playoff position right now.
Yeah, and that's very much a surprise to me. I didn't really see them as a playoff team, and also they are also one terrible lateral away from being 1 win better than they are.
Yeah, that is true. The Giants beat the Colts. Giants are now locked into the number 6 seed. So what should their strategy be this Sunday against the Eagles? Should they be resting players, getting ready for that game and whoever they play in the wild card round, or what should they be doing?
Well, so they're the 6th seed. So they're playing. Who are they playing right now? And if the season ended, they would be playing.
If the season ended today, they'd be playing the 49ers, I believe. Maybe the Vikings. I'm not sure.
I would say no. I would say don't rest your starters, because if you beat Philly, you could maybe get a slightly easier opponent in Minnesota.
But they're locked into the number 6 seed. They can't move up to the number 5 seed.
Yes, but they can switch. They can have the top 3 move around, and that will help them.
That may be true, actually. But yeah, you mentioned the Eagles. Are they collapsing? I mean, it sure looks like it, but should we still trust them in the playoffs? Or have they just collapsed way too much at this point?
We'll see. I think getting Hurts back will definitely help them. I don't know
for
if
sure,
it'll be
an
enough.
MVP candidate.
I don't know if it'll be enough, though. Because the NFL is not only a game of how good the players on the team are, it's also a game of momentum.
Yes, very fair.
If you get blown out, you're not going to play as well the next week. And the Eagles, after dominating the entire season, losing 2 straight right before the playoffs start, doesn't look good. Doesn't feel good for them either.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they managed to knock off the Panthers. Buccaneers clinching now the NFC South. They'll be the 4 seed in the postseason. What should we expect from them as they move towards the postseason?
Absolutely nothing. They're going to get blown out in the first round.
Okay.
No matter who they play, they're not going anywhere.
Okay. The Browns beat the Commanders. How bright is the future in Cleveland?
That's a good question. They do have some weapons, especially Myles Garrett. They have Cooper, a wide receiver. We'll see. Remains to be seen how good Watson will be long term. But I do think Cleveland has the potential to be a pretty solid team. Just depends on how good. I think really their position in the NFC North depends on how good the Bengals and Ravens continue to be.
I think that's fair. Although the Steelers, Charlie, have been looking, even with very little right now, they've been looking like a good team. They're 8-8, and they've kind of come out of nowhere, and they could also be sticking around. So that could be a very good division long term.
I think it will be. However, I wouldn't necessarily say that, because we thought that the AFC West would be competitive this year, and it most certainly was not.
Yeah. The Jaguars beat the Texans in what was pretty much an irrelevant game. We'll get to the Jaguars scenario later,
Again, morale though really goes in the Jaguars' favor after blowing out the Texans.
Yep. The 49ers held off the Raiders. The Raiders made the decision, Charlie, to bench Derek Carr. Sounds like his Raider career might be over. What did you think about that decision?
I think it's been fair, because Stidham's been playing very well recently.
Yeah, I mean,
He's had a couple
agree.
he's had a couple of quite great games.
Yeah, I agree, but I think Carr's still a decent quarterback in this league, and here's the problem. Since Derek Carr entered the league, the Raiders have had the worst defense in the NFL. The best defense that the Raiders have had in a season when Derek Carr has been their quarterback is the 20th best defense in the league. What's he supposed to do there?
Well, he can't do very much. Yeah, he has to score a touchdown on every possession, essentially.
Exactly. So I feel like a kind of unfortunate situation there. And I feel like this offseason they focused, again, more on building that offense than building that defense. And it showed, especially given the number of leads that they've blown.
Yeah, haven't they blown 3 17-point leads now?
At least. And that's embarrassing.
Well, yeah, although how on the opposite side of that, you got the Broncos, who, what a disaster of a season they've had.
Well, they have no future.
Well, yeah, they're stuck in the basement for the next 5 years at least.
Yeah. The Packers managed to blow out the Vikings. Charlie, as we know, has said a lot of stuff on this show about the Packers over the course of this season. How are you feeling now that they look to be on the verge of a playoff berth?
They're not going to do it. I'm telling you, the Lions are going to beat them. I severely hope so, especially because I've said a lot of stuff about them, and if they make the playoffs, I'm going to look more stupid than usual, which is getting increasingly hard to do.
All right. The Chargers beat the Rams. They've rebounded nicely, Charlie.
They really have. For a team that looks like they weren't going to go anywhere about the midway point of the season, they have really improved. Certainly, their injuries have really stopped in terms of how many they've had. They've gotten a lot of players back, and they have really driven themselves directly into the playoffs now.
Yep. And again, the Steelers beat the Ravens, and I think, Charlie, with Lamar Jackson injured again, right? The Ravens, straight up, they suck without Lamar Jackson.
Oh, they're just yeah, completely.
But with Lamar Jackson, I feel like they're one of the best teams in the league.
So he makes a huge difference.
He makes such a big difference for them, I feel like. And then, of course, that Bills-Bengals game postponed, and also we forgot to mention that Seahawks-Jets game. These are two very interesting teams because they've kind of been up and down this year, Charlie.
Yeah, certainly. The Seahawks at one point looked like they were, at the beginning of the season, they looked like they were going to be terrible, and then they were leading their division for a while, and then they lost 3 straight. Now they're coming back a little bit. It's going to, as I said, it's going to be a great ending of the week with the Seahawks playing the Rams, who have looked good recently, and that really crucial Sunday night game between Detroit and Green Bay.
Yep. All right. So the playoffs picture heading into week 18. In the NFC, Eagles, Vikings, 49ers, Buccaneers, Cowboys, and Giants, they've all clinched playoff spots, with the Vikings, 49ers, and Buccaneers all having clinched their division. The AFC, Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, and Chargers have all clinched spots in the postseason, with the Bills, Chiefs, and Bengals clinching their division. So, Charlie, let's talk some scenarios, and we'll start in the AFC. What's it looking like for the number 1 seed race? That's between the Bills, Bengals, and Chiefs.
Well, I think it really comes down to what's the deal with the Bills-Bengals game? How's that going to end?
Will it even happen at all?
Yes, and that's the question. And if it doesn't happen, how do they sort that out?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it might sort itself out, but there's no guarantee of that. Right? Say that the Ravens beat Say that the Ravens beat the Bengals, but then there's a whole nother problem, which is who wins that division, Bengals or the Ravens.
Because of the canceled Bills game.
Exactly. So however it works out, either way, that game, it will be, I guess, needed in some way. And you got to wonder if the NFL is going to try to reschedule it, and if so, how. I can't imagine them just leaving that off their schedule permanently, especially given how big of a matchup it is.
So if they can't reschedule it, what would they do?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's really unclear. I feel like this is a completely unprecedented situation in the NFL. And again, let me reiterate, the NFL made the right decision in postponing the game.
They did. They very much did.
By which we mean that the teams made the right decision in forcing the NFL to cancel the game.
Yes.
Yeah, in the AFC South, Titans and the Jaguars fighting for that title for that division. They play each other 5:15 p.m. Pacific time on Saturday. The winner of the game will get the division. In the AFC North, meanwhile, again, we talked about it a minute ago, Ravens Bengals. They play each other sometime on Sunday, undetermined yet. Unclear when that Bills Bengals game will take place, if it does at all. But the Bengals, they win the division if they win one of their remaining games. Ravens win the division if the Bengals lose both of their remaining games. What about that final wild card spot in the AFC? Because this is chaos.
Oh, it most certainly is. We have is it 4 or 5 teams that are competing for it?
4 teams competing for it.
Yeah, we got the Patriots, the Dolphins, Steelers, Jags. This is going to be chaos. Browns, Steelers, Titans, Jaguars, Patriots, Bills, and Jets, Dolphins are all going to be extremely important games. All the Browns, Steelers, Patriots, Bills, and Jets, Dolphins are all on Sunday at 10 Pacific, and Titans, Jaguars is 5:15 Pacific on Saturday. And of course, as you said, that is for the division lead. And interestingly enough, the friend that I have that bet with involving the Jaguars will be at my house and we'll be watching that game. So here's some scenarios. The Jaguars can clinch with a loss by the Patriots, Dolphins, and Steelers. Patriots.
It's so weird because if they lose, if they win, then they win the division. But if they lose, they'll still have a chance at that wild card if everyone else also loses.
The Patriots can clinch with a win or a loss by the Steelers and Dolphins, and if the Jags win. The Dolphins clinch with a win and a Patriots loss, and the Steelers clinch with a win and a loss by the Patriots and Dolphins. So, chaos.
A lot of chaos.
The NFC is slightly more simple.
Not much, though.
In terms of the number 1 seed, the relevant games here are going to be Giants-Eagles at 1:25 Pacific on Sunday, and Cowboys-Commanders, as well as Vikings-Bears. The Eagles can clinch with a win or a loss by the Cowboys and 49ers. The Cowboys will clinch with a win and a loss by the 49ers and Eagles, and the 49ers will clinch with a win and a loss by the Eagles.
Yeah. Chaos.
Yep. And as for the wild cards...
Well, the NFC East first.
Yes.
The Cowboys and the Eagles. Eagles play the Giants.
Giants play the Giants, Eagles, and Cowboys Commanders are both at 1:25 Pacific on Sunday. The scenarios there: Eagles clinch with a win or a Cowboys loss, and the Cowboys clinch if they win and the Eagles lose. And as for the final wild card spot, the relevant games here are Seahawks Rams at 1:25 Pacific on Sunday, and Lions Packers on Sunday Night Football. Packers win and they're in. The Lions win if they beat the Packers and the Seahawks lose, and the Seahawks win if they win and the Packers lose. So, and that Colin and I were on a call the other day, and we discovered that if the Commanders win and the Lions tie, the Packers tie, and the Seahawks tie, the Lions make it in for some reason. We weren't sure how that happened, but let's move. But
if the Commanders lose or tie, though, then the Seahawks would make it in that 3-way tie.
So that's weird. Anyway, let's move on to college football now.
By bringing a 4th team into the tie, it changes who wins the tiebreaker, and it's not the Commanders, it's someone else. It's the Lions.
Why?
I have yet to figure that out myself.
let's go to college football. We have a couple of bowl games. But first to the college football playoff in the Fiesta Bowl, TCU beat Michigan. Michigan rallied late, but came up just short. And in the Peach Bowl, Georgia beat Ohio State, with Ohio State missing a field goal as time expired. So what are your thoughts on the semifinal?
I wonder if this is what we had gotten from the college football playoff every year. Whether the powers would have determined that expansion was necessary.
Yeah, these were great 2 games.
These were a phenomenal 2 games. Absolutely terrible officiating in the TCU Michigan game. And a unfortunately missed field goal in the Georgia Ohio State game. I feel really bad for that kicker. But ultimately the quality of those games super just insanely high. I'm so excited for the championship. Either. Hopefully it'll be just as high quality. What's your prediction?
I'm gonna take the safe option and go Georgia here, but I think TCU has a very good chance of also sneaking through here.
I'm gonna go Frogs. I feel like everyone underestimates them, right?
Yeah.
Everyone thought that, well, they're by far the worst team in the playoff. No, they're not.
No, they're really not.
It's just that they don't have the track record that the other teams have.
Yeah.
In the other New Year's 6 games, Penn State beat Utah, Alabama beat Kansas State, Tennessee beat Clemson, and Tulane beat USC in the Rose Bowl, Sugar Bowl, Orange Bowl, and Cotton Bowl, respectively. But there were a lot of other bowl games, Charlie, and we made predictions on all of them. I haven't actually gone back to see how we did on our predictions, but we do know.
Are we going to go through every single one again?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go.
In the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, Eastern Michigan beat San Jose State. In the Boca Raton Bowl, Toledo beat Liberty. In the New Orleans Bowl, Western Kentucky beat South Alabama. In the Armed Forces Bowl, Air Force beat Baylor. In the Independence Bowl, Houston beat Louisiana. In the Gasparilla Bowl, Wake Forest beat Missouri. In the Hawaii Bowl, Middle Tennessee beat San Diego State. In the Quick Lane Bowl, New Mexico State beat Bowling Green. In the Alcamilla Bowl, Buffalo beat Georgia Southern. In the First Responder Bowl, Memphis beat Utah State. In the Birmingham Bowl, East Carolina beat Coastal Carolina. In the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Wisconsin beat Oklahoma State. In the Military Bowl, Duke beat UCF, Arkansas beat Kansas in the Liberty Bowl, Oregon beat North Carolina in the Holiday Bowl, Texas Tech beat Ole Miss in the Texas Bowl, Minnesota beat Syracuse in the Pinstripe Bowl, Florida State beat Oklahoma in the Cheez-It Bowl, Washington beat Texas in the Alamo Bowl, Maryland beat NC State in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, Pittsburgh beat UCLA in the Sun Bowl, Notre Dame beat South Carolina in the Gator Bowl, Ohio beat Wyoming in the Arizona Bowl, Iowa beat Kentucky in the Music City Bowl, Mississippi State beat Illinois in the ReliaQuest Bowl, and LSU beat Purdue in the Citrus Bowl.
We done?
Yeah, we done. Okay. Let's move on to some predictions for what's coming up in 2023, Charlie, and let's start with who will be Speaker of the House of Representatives at the end of 2023?
I have no idea. I don't know if I can answer that one. I would say probably McCarthy, but I just don't know.
Oh, no, McCarthy's not winning the Speaker. It's not happening. He's never going to get the votes. And I realize that I'm going to look like a complete idiot if an hour after this episode gets put out, he suddenly gets the votes, but he's not going to get the votes.
Colin, I actually have a question for you about that. So if it just stays locked and they keep having this, could this theoretically go on forever?
Well, until the end of the next Congress when they all get voted out.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
It'd be the most useless Congress of all time. Imagine for a second though, Charlie, this was to happen in 2025 when on January 6th, the Congress would have to certify the election results.
Oh, that wouldn't be good.
Imagine if Congress literally wasn't a functioning entity at that point.
That would be very bad.
Yeah.
All right. How about what did you got for your Super Bowl prediction?
Chiefs. I've changed.
Who did they beat?
Oh, I don't know. No one. The NFC's irrelevant.
I'm gonna say
Chiefs over 49ers in the same result as 3 years ago.
Bills over Niners.
Okay. Who I have as Speaker of the House? We'll say Steve Scalise.
All
So,
right.
all right. Who do you think will be the leading candidate for the Democrats and the Republicans for the presidential nomination at the end of 2023?
Biden and DeSantis.
I'm going to go Biden and Trump on this one.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think that while Trump may be losing some support and relevance in the top-ranking Republicans, he still has the base, and that matters.
It does.
But what do you think will be the state of Russia-Ukraine at the end of the year?
I don't know. Hopefully, the war is over with Ukraine winning, but I just don't know.
I'm going to go ahead and say that the war won't be over, but Ukraine will have recaptured all of its territory that they lost, and Putin will still be trying to do something. I don't know what. But more sports predictions. We've already done the college football playoff, but what do you think about college basketball? Who ends up winning the NCAA tournament?
Oh, it's a difficult one. I don't know. I'll just go. I don't know, I'll say I Houston or Gonzaga. That's my.
Yeah, I was going to say Houston, and it's in Final Four, I believe, this year in Houston as well. About the World Series this year.
I want to say it, but I can't
say it.
Seattle.
Say it.
All right. Well, you're not going to be happy with this. I'm going to say Astros win it again.
Oh God.
I'm going to say Astros Phillies rematch. Astros win it again.
I want to say the Seattle Mariners so badly.
Well, that's what I wanted to say, but they're not going to do it, man.
Something tells me the Mets, but then I remember that it's the Mets.
It's the Mets.
So I'm going to go the San Diego Padres.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Why?
Who wins because they're looking good.
All right. But then who gets there from the NL? For the AL, sorry.
AL? Probably the Astros. The AL isn't particularly good right now.
I hate the fact that the Astros are in the AL. Why couldn't they have just stayed where they were?
Stayed in the NL? Yeah, I know.
So much better.
What about the NBA Finals? Who's gonna win?
Not the Warriors.
I know.
I'm gonna go Cleveland.
The Cavaliers, that's a good one. Donovan Mitchell has definitely been making a difference for them. Just dropped 71 Monday night. That's ridiculous. But part of me wants to say the Brooklyn Nets because they're really good, but I feel like the distractions will find a way to crop up again. I'm going to go the Boston Celtics. I think that they're especially motivated this year. I think that they're going to get back to the finals. I think they're going to win the finals.
All right. We're running out of leagues. Oh, Stanley Cup. Who you got?
The Seattle Kraken.
Genuinely, man?
I think they'll make the playoffs. And once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. But
I'm taking Boston.
I don't follow hockey closely enough, but I'm gonna say the Kraken. So, Charlie, what a time right now. We live in Seattle. What a time to be a Seattle sports fan.
Yeah, our football team didn't implode. Our baseball team's actually good for once, and our hockey team's good somehow.
Yeah, I mean, all three of those teams, they're good, and they're getting better. And
the Storm are good, are made the playoffs as usual. The Sounders need to fix what they're doing, but then they'll be fine.
The Huskies in non-professional sports, in terms of football at least, are going to be really good next year. Seattle's got the MLB All-Star Game coming to town in July this year, and January of next year, the NHL Winter Classic is coming to Seattle.
And we have a top 5 draft pick in the NFL draft.
Yeah, probably.
Thanks, Denver.
Yeah, thanks, Denver. That's going to do it for us. Make sure that you subscribe. Episodes coming out every single Tuesday. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, this is our website, cctalks.net, which is everything that you need to know about the show. Call us with your questions, 360-389-2630. Again, 360-389-2630. Also follow us on Twitter at CC Talks Podcast. For our producer Morris, production designer Zack, and our proof editor Drake, I'm Colin.
And I'm Charlie. See you next week.
Thanks for listening.